everyone! Today we'll explain how to play Men-Nefer, a game by Germain P. Milan. It's recommended for players age 14 and up with 1 to 4 players and an approximate game length of 30 to 120 minutes. The game's goal is to earn the most points by developing different aspects of the game, activating your action tablets, and sending your apprentices to the houses of life. Setup. Place the main board in the center of the table, using the side corresponding to the number of players. Place the quarry at the bottom left corner of the board, and on it, the pyramid pieces, separating the pieces for the Great Pyramid and the pieces for the Queen's Pyramids into different stacks, placing them in their corresponding areas. Randomly place a Queen's Pyramid tile in each of the 3 designated spaces. Place the narrator token on space 1 of the era track. Randomly place a mastaba tile in each of the 5 corresponding spaces next to the necropolis. Randomly place a deity on the temple altar. Shuffle the crafts into their bag. Draw 4 randomly and place them face up from left to right in the craft market. Shuffle the papyrus tiles in their bag. Draw 4 randomly and place them face up from left to right in the papyrus market. Separate the trade contracts into 3 stacks according to the value on their back and place them next to the main board. Then, starting from left to right, fill the first 2 cities on both sides of the river with value 1 contracts, the next 2 cities with value 2 contracts, and the last 2 cities with value 3 contracts. In games with 2 or 3 players, shuffle the 5 neutral apprentice setup tiles according to the side corresponding to the number of players, and place the neutral apprentices in the House of Life according to the arrangement shown on the tile. In 2-player games, place a hammer tile covering the icons below spaces 3 and 8 on the Great Pyramid track. Then, each player takes a personal board and all the elements of one color. Next, place the elements as follows: 1 apprentice in each space marked by this icon on your board, the 4 sphinxes in their reserve, the 4 mummies, sarcophagi with the mummy side up in their reserve, the 3 Khufu pyramids in your reserve, 1 basket in each space of the pyramid area, the hieroglyph counter on the starting space of the hieroglyph track, the Ankh on space 2 of the Heka track, the heart and the feather on their starting spaces on the Duat track, the scarab on the starting space of each of the 5 specialization tracks, the orb on the starting space of the obelisk, the 4 priestesses in front of the temple entrance, the 4 boats on the starting stretch of the Nile, a limestone block next to the starting spaces of the Great Pyramid and the Queen's Pyramids tracks, the seal on space 10 of the Prestige Points track. The starting player places their water lily on space 1 of the turn order track. The rest place theirs in clockwise order. Then each player places their fish token on the food track space corresponding to their position in the turn order. Separate the action tablets by their back. Deal 1 of each value, 1, 2, and 3, to each player, and shuffle the rest with the value 4 tablets. Then, place them face up in their designated space and reveal the top 5 under the stack. How to play. A game of Men-Nefer lasts for 3 eras, and each era is divided into 3 seasons. Flood. This phase is skipped in Era 1. In it, perform the following steps. Narrator. Move the narrator token 1 space forward. Resources. Get 1 food for each of your boats that surpasses 1 fishing boat. If it surpasses 2, get 2 food. You gain food whether your boats are in the river or a city. Also get 1, 2, or 3 Heka if your orb has reached the corresponding space on the obelisk. Apprentices. Recover your 3 apprentices. If there are neutral apprentices in play, move each one to the House of Life below them without flipping their slide. If there is already an apprentice in the last House of Life before moving, take it to the first one. Trade contracts. Refill the empty spaces in the Nile cities corresponding to the number of players. In Era 2, use only 2 value contracts. In Era 3, only 3 value contracts. Turn order. The player with the fewest points places their water lily in the first position, the next player with the fewest points in the second position, and so on. Sowing. This phase is played in turns. On your turn, choose one of these 3 options. visit a house of life, or specialize in a house of life, or obtain an action tablet. Visit a house of life. Choose an apprentice and an action tablet. Place that apprentice on the sun side of a house of life. If there are already apprentices, you must spend food depending on the number of apprentices present. Then, perform the actions on the tablet in any order. Once resolved, place the tablet face down in the tablet discard pile. If you don't have enough food, don't spend what you do have. Just place your apprentice and gain 3 food, but don't perform any of the actions on the tablet. Specialize in a house of life. To choose this option, you need an apprentice on the sun side of a house of life. First, move the apprentice from the sun side to the moon side. If there are other apprentices, you must spend food according to the number of apprentices present. Next, move forward your scarab 1 space on the corresponding track and perform the action where it's located, or one of the previous ones. If the scarab reaches the end of the track, you can't advance any further, but you can perform any of the previous actions. If you don't have enough food, don't spend what you do have. Gain 3 food and move your apprentice anyway, but you won't advance your scarab or perform any actions. Obtain an action tablet. First, choose one of the 5 available tablets. Then, spend or gain the food indicated to the left of the tablet. If you can't pay the cost, you can't take the tablet. Place the tablet in an empty space on your board. If the hieroglyph on the tablet matches the one just to the right of your counter, advance the counter to that hieroglyph and perform the action below it, which could be gaining a point or advancing one of your scarabs. Then perform the action associated with the tablet you just took or any of those below it. Finally, move all the available tablets down and add a new one. If the draw pile runs out, take the discard pile, flip it over, and place it in the draw space to form a new pile. Once you have carried out one of the 3 options, pass the turn to the next player in the turn order. The planting phase ends when no one can carry out any of the 3 options. Harvest. In this phase, you'll score different aspects of the game by performing the following steps in order. Roll papyrus. Count the papyrus tiles you obtained during the era and the drawings completed with them. Advance your feather 1 space for each papyrus and each completed drawing. Then place all papyrus face down to the left of this icon on your board. The duat. If your heart and feather haven't crossed paths, lose 1 point for each of these icons between them. If they have crossed, gain 1 point for each icon. Trade contracts. Flip all your contracts that are face up and fulfilled. Score according to their back for both the contracts you just flipped and those already flipped from previous eras. The necropolis. Score as many points as indicated by the 2 tiles that are perpendicular to where you've placed your sarcophagi. The obelisk. Get as many points as indicated by the last scoring space you've reached. The pyramids. Get as many points as indicated by the last scoring space you've reached on the Great Pyramid track. Also, score each Khufu pyramid you've placed in the Queen's Pyramids. Each pyramid is scored separately. The points earned will be the result of multiplying the number of pyramids you've placed in a pyramid by the amount you have of the elements shown on the pyramid tile. Actions. The actions you'll take during the planting phase are grouped by the area they belong to. Below we'll explain the game's main actions. The pyramids. Gain Khufu's favor. Perform one of the actions shown next to the Great Pyramid. When Khufu's favor shows 2 exclamations, perform 2 actions or the same action twice. With these actions, you can gain 1 heka, 1 food, advance your feather, or advance your heart. Get Khufu's permit. Move one of your permits from the reserve to the available permit area. If you are out of permits, transport a limestone block. Transport limestone. Move 1 or 2 of your limestone blocks according to the steps granted by the action. If you have multiple steps, you can distribute them among your blocks as you wish. If you advance on this track, you can build on the Great Pyramid. When you reach a construction space, take the top piece from the corresponding stack in the quarry for the level being built and place it on the pyramid. When placing the piece, you receive 2 Khufu favors, the one you cover and the one visible on the piece you place. If you place the capstone, even if it covers 4 pieces, you only receive 2 favors of your choice from the ones covered. If you advance on this track, you can also build on the Queen's Pyramids. To advance your marker to the space with this icon, you must have at least one available Khufu permit. If you have one, place your permit next to a Queen's Pyramid that hasn't been completed. Then take the piece corresponding to the next level from the quarry and place it on top. The necropolis. Embalm. Flip a mummy in your reserve to its sarcophagus side and move it to the available sarcophagi area. If you don't have any mummies left, advance both your heart and feather 1 space. Funeral rite. Place one of your sarcophagi in a space in the necropolis with a level equal to or lower than the action you chose with your scarab. When placing the sarcophagus, you get the benefit indicated on the space you cover. Additionally, you can activate the 2 mastaba tiles perpendicular to the space where you placed your sarcophagus as many times as the level where it was placed. If you have multiple activations, you can distribute them between the 2 tiles as you please. Obtain a papyrus. Choose a papyrus from the 4 available in the market and spend the heka indicated underneath it. Then place it in the first available space to the right of this icon on your board, also spending the heka indicated on that space. At the end of your turn, refill the papyrus market by moving the existing ones to the right. The temple and the obelisk. Obtain a craft. Choose a craft from the 4 available in the market and spend the food indicated underneath it. Place the craft in the pyramid area of your board and place the basket from that space on the acquired craft. Crafts are placed from left to right. A higher level craft can only be placed over 2 lower level crafts. When placing one on these icons, immediately add the corresponding points. The basket on the crafts are used to make offerings with those crafts. At the end of your turn, refill the craft market by moving the existing ones to the right. Advanced priestesses. Move one or more of your priestesses in the temple according to the value of the action and the cost of the rooms you want to enter. You can move your priestesses whether they are standing or lying down, and if you have multiple steps, you can distribute them among your priestesses as you want. Make an offering. With this action, you can make an offering before or after moving your priestesses, but never in between. First, choose a basket with a craft from your board. Then, perform the actions shown on the craft, depending on the level where it's placed on your board. You can perform the action corresponding to the level where it's placed, as well as those corresponding to lower levels, in any order you wish. After performing them, set the basket aside and flip the craft over. Lastly, place the basket you set aside in an empty offering space in a temple room where you have a standing priestess. Then, lie the priestess down. Perform the actions of the space where you placed the basket. The action from this icon indicates how many steps you should move your orb up the obelisk. If the orb reaches a deity space, perform the action of the deity in play. The Nile River. Advance boats. Move one or more of your boats according to the value of the action. Advance to the next river section. Enter a city from an adjacent river section through its side without an arrow, or leave a city into the river section indicated by the arrow. You can't end your movement where you already have a boat. Activate boats. When the action icon shows 2 exclamation marks, you must activate 2 different boats. You can activate the boats before or after moving them, but never in between. First, choose a boat that hasn't been activated this turn. If it's on the river, gain the food indicated in that section. If it's in a city, gain that city's benefit and take one of the available contracts, placing it on your board. If you don't have any free spaces, you can discard either the contract you just acquired or one you already had to make room for it. Lastly, move the boat to the river section indicated by the arrow. If you already have a boat there, move the activated boat back to the first river section where you don't have a boat. The sphinxes. Carve a sphinx. Move a sphinx from your reserve to the available sphinx area. If you don't have any sphinxes left, get 1 point. Erect a sphinx. Place one of your available sphinxes on an empty pedestal whose level is equal or lower than the action card chosen with your scarab. When placing it, gain the benefits indicated on the pedestal. End of game. The game ends after the harvest phase of Era 3. The player with the highest score wins. In case of a tie, the player with the highest combined value of the spaces where their heart and feather are wins. Men-Nefer also includes a solo mode where you'll face Imhotep, the first known architect and engineer in history. Will you be able to defeat the Great Master? And that's all for Men-Nefer, the new Eurogame by German P. Milan. Will you have what it takes to contribute to the development of this great city?